Hello.
Hello, hello. How are you, Dhruv?
Good, good. Just had another live stream with someone else. Now back to real world service now. So
Busy, busy. Yes. So, welcome everyone who is in the live stream. Today, what we are going to do is we are going to start Lata Viprata Sanadu series, as we always do with the new releases presented by me and Dhruv. We are going to unleash ServiceNow IDE Part 1 today. If you are excited, stay tuned because we are going to take you through that journey. But Dhruv, what are we going to really discuss today? Can you enlighten us?
okay, so we recently had John Lin, the person from ServiceNow, how you call that man behind all these pro developer experience, and we had a Latan V Pratan podcast recorded with him. So another shameless plug. But these features, the pro developer experience, we have been looking for quite long. And when we saw that, oh, it's in Xanadu, then we just invited him. And then whatever he shared in the podcast, forces us to make sure that we start our series with IDE. Doesn't matter if it takes a bit longer, that we are not doing it on the first day itself, but we want to start with IDE because being passionate about development, that's how things go for us. So, with that said, Ashu, what's SDK, IDE, Fluent? How are you going to explain them? Because there are too many terms.
Okay, so this is our brain dump, right? Dhruv, we connected before and we thought, okay, after the podcast, can we visualize this? So, according to us, what we think is there is an IDE, which is an environment where developers will go, pro code developers will go and start developing, same like Visual Studio Code. And it has two major components next to it. And that is nothing but SDK and Fluent. Now, let's start with Fluent, Dhruv. What exactly it is? It is TypeScript. It is a DSL language which is written in TypeScript, which helps you to synchronize your code as well as the visual changes. So it supports two-way synchronization, which we will see in our demo as well. But there is always a question, right? Like if Fluent is separate, then SDK or IDE, then this diagram might help you to understand it a bit. Fluent is part of SDK as per our knowledge, and SDK is nothing but a package which ServiceNow has. It's an MVM package or
NPM.
NPM package. Yeah, that's the package called as @ServiceNow SDK, which you can download also, and we will show you what we are talking about. Um, so a question
Just
might
to
arise then. Yeah, go ahead.
just to add on, Fluent is not a code, it's basically a representation of how your executables or components would look like the assets. Something similar if you have in ServiceNow, you see everything in an XML. So it's that kind of a representation. Not XML, it doesn't mean that it's going to replace the already existing components. It's something like when you compile how you how I don't know, if you compile a Java file, it gets converted to bytecode, or when you
Yeah.
compile a TypeScript, it gets compiled as JavaScript. So that's ServiceNow Fluent. When you compile them, it becomes the metadata that can be deployed in an instance. So it's
Yeah.
it's not a replacement, it's an alternative of your XML thing, which helps you move things or create metadata components easier, I mean, in a more manageable approach. That's what
Yeah.
I can say.
And according to us, SDK helps to compile the Fluent code, and Fluent is itself a metadata kind of thing, which is nothing but a domain-specific language called as TypeScript. Very well in visualization, which we will show you. Not like XML, because XML sometimes it's very messy to read, but the way how ServiceNow came up with this solution is awesome, and it's very developer friendly, let's say. Um, the interesting part we also asked her to John was why even they came up with this solution. And to know what he said, please go again back to our podcast and listen. But for us, for at least for me, and maybe Dhruv will share his idea. Uh, these all three awesome features is the future where we are going. So ServiceNow is making more and more tools available for code developers also to have the same experience which they have in Git or which they have in some other different tools. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
just to clarify, the Fluent is like it's based on TypeScript specification, but so if you know TypeScript gets uh, compiled to JavaScript, but it doesn't get compiled to JavaScript. It compiles to being a metadata file. So whenever I say metadata file, just imagine it to be the XML file or the configuration of the platform, just to be very clear what exactly Fluent is.
yeah. And all these three together helps us to build a wonderful scope application, and that is what we have shown you in the bottom. Um, do you want to add anything, Dhruv, before we go to the demo?
Yeah, so thing is, IDE, ServiceNow IDE, you need a plugin specifically, glider plugin, and you might not see that in your PDI as of now. So you need to upgrade, but it's coming in. So IDE is just a Visual Studio web application. It's based on Visual Studio. The idea behind this is to utilize the features of Visual Studio that is not possible as of now in ServiceNow because of the absence of IDE. You will have limited extensions to enable upfront, but yeah, it's slowly coming in, and it really helps. So the setup that we have for Visual Studio and how the actual development happens, like apart from ServiceNow, the t- proper development process that happens outside ServiceNow, that is that visual code and GitHub or GitLab, Gitbucket, whatever you are using, and you deploy from that. So if your organization has pro developers that want to use ServiceNow, but they are not familiar with ServiceNow, but they're pro developers, say something you're building in Azure, you want to configure some assignment rules to manage your vulnerabilities and all, then in that scenario, this come very handy. So
Yeah,
yeah, good thing to look out for.
yeah. So Dhruv already mentioned first prerequisite, that is the plugin which you need to activate from store, and the second prerequisite is you should be on Xanadu. Without that, you can't use this feature. Okay, now it's the time to go and show you what we have learned, and we will share our experience around it. So what we are going to do is, so this is basically nothing but ServiceNow IDE. If you search on the left navigation, ServiceNow IDE, and click on this, you will come up to this particular area. Now, first thing what we need to do is we need to create a workspace, and I'm going to call it as Plata Viprata demo. Okay, this is the first thing. You can't have spaces in your workspace name. So
Welcome
that's
to
same
traditional
like
development. Welcome to real world of development.
yes. Uh, okay. This is another thing. It is not allowing me to have alphanumeric characters, so I'm going to simply say like this. Then I need to give a description. I am going to say demo, and you will see my workspace is created. One thing which I need to clarify is as soon as we create a workspace, it does not mean that you have created an app. So the next step, what we should be doing is create an app. So let's go and start creating an app. Give me a good name, Dhruv.
Dhruv is a good name, but you can go for Simpsons or Pokemon. I can think of Pokemon only at this point, but yeah.
Okay,
Uh,
Pokemon.
So one question, like in when we do traditional actual development in a workspace, we have multiple applications running in parallel. So is there any recommendation or any preference that you would have?
I would say, in my experience, we should keep it one on one. So one workspace, one application. It becomes very easy to maintain. It becomes very easy to deploy because you can connect it with one repo only. And if you are doing multiple applications and if you are doing co-development with other people, it becomes very difficult to manage the deployments. One
Yeah, to
more
be on
thing
safer
to,
side.
yeah, and the sandboxes will help, of course, when they are launched. If you are having sandboxes, then you can work on your own branch and then you can go bananas. But for now, one workspace, one app is recommended from our side.
And
Um,
so it's for creating new apps. We can't use already existing apps as of now, right?
no, and this was also mentioned by John in our podcast that it's coming. It's in their roadmap somewhere in November's store release. They are going to do it, but again, safe harbor. Do not make any buying decisions based upon Dhruv and Ashutosh's comments.
Mhm.
Please make your own choices. But we know it was also mentioned somewhere that they are planning to do. They are planning to extend the support to the existing applications as well.
And what about global?
Not supported yet. It's on roadmap as well.
It will be fun, like to manage through this. And the
Yes.
best part, if you're
Imagine.
in Visual Studio, like not in IDE, if you're in Visual Studio, you can do offline development as well and just put that thing in the system. So,
You are spilling the beans now for the next video.
oh man, I have to present in that. So, okay, we'll see.
So now we are at a place where you can see a scope name, unique scope name has been created automatically. Then it will create a package name. And as soon as I say enter, you will see now what ServiceNow is doing. It is trying to create an application. And in this process, from the IDE environment, ServiceNow is trying to fetch the SDK package from a respective location. So you can see here, now the app is created. And if I scroll a bit up, you will see this particular part, ServiceNow SDK version 2.0 was fetched from the npm package location automatically on the instance. At the same time, we also have SRC Fluent. And then finally, if you see, we are using SDK at multiple locations. The the significance of this, I will show you when I start coding something here. Now, the app is created, right? We have a shell created. If I go to source and if I show you the Fluent, and if I open this, you will see there is one client script, there is one business rule, and now here you can see there is no connection. The connection has been lost, and this is something which we have faced multiple times during the demo as well. But for now, we can ignore this. Here you can see we have client script, we have business rule. Now imagine that I want to create a table. Now there are two ways to do it. Either you start editing the script here, or you create an extra file. What's your
Before
preference,
that,
Dhruv?
a separate file always. But there is one thing that we should notice that if you look at the on the left side, the or structure of the folders. So I prefer not to touch anything starting with a dot,
Mhm.
for example, now or those files, unless you know what you are doing, because I think it's the part of the shell, so you can modify it. But if you're starting it, then yeah, doesn't make sense. I prefer to have different typescripts file for different assets so that it's easier to manage and easier to push through, because there could be multiple like whenever we develop, we don't push everything to git in one shot, like we select certain things and then push it. So if you are in a situation where you have multiple assets built in one file itself, then yeah, it could be tricky. So
Yeah. And we will show them how we are going to stack the changes, and push it. Um, For our audience, keep in mind we have not connected anything to Git yet. We are going there. Right now, we are in the building phase of the application. So what I will do is I will start creating a new file. Let's say I will call it as my my uh,
Yeah,
request
the
dot
in the meantime,
dot details.
if in the meantime, if people can notice on the index file itself, that is TypeScript. Like it's a orientation of different fields of your assets, and when you push that in, it's just a application file. It could be a business rule, it could be anything. So it automatically compiles as equivalent of your XML file. I mean, I'm trying to explain it in the easiest manner, but yeah, it's once you have a component, can you open those components and in a split screen, like create
Definitely.
a business?
Yeah. So I will start creating the table first. Now here, one thing is important. Now I'm here. I need my package name or my app name.
Yeah, and the other thing is, if you go on Docs, to begin with, there are limited types of assets that you can create, like API or tables, and all the things that Ashu has pasted over here. It's not something he remember in his mind. It's he just copied it from Docs
It's
and
from Docs. Yeah.
is just pasting it.
But we will show them in a bit that why it is very important to also copy correctly. Um, for now, through what I'm going to do is remove this just to get that error.
Mhm.
Let me quickly see if I did everything correct. I'm extending it with task. I want status. Very good. And I think I need to end it like this. So I'm going to save this. And here you can see there is one file which I have set. Now to build this table, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on build here, and you will see ServiceNow has started building the application. And this is what I wanted to show you. The string column is nothing but an API which is part of ServiceNow SDK package. And if I do not declare it or if I do not import it from that particular core, it will give us an error. So what I will do is I will quickly,
And this is
it's kind
something
of an,
people who,
yeah, I go ahead.
yeah, it's something that people who are doing pro development, apart from ServiceNow, they know that how to import these SDKs and how to import specific things to be used. You can call it API, you can call it function. I call it them components. So it's
Yeah.
easy to
Okay. Let's do
building
it again.
Pokemon. That reads interesting. Building Pokemon.
Like a trainer. Yeah. So now you can see it was successfully installed. When we say it is successfully installed, it means it has successfully created the table and the application version has been installed in the source instance. Nothing is happening outside the instance at the moment. To show you um, how the table looks, what I'm going to go is I'm going to go here, which is called as Metadata Explorer. And under this, you will see now we have data. But at the same time, you will also see client development and server development, which was part of index 5. Now, if I open this data and if I just simply go on my request, you will start seeing the table.
I should
And
have
what I'm
called it
going to
my
do
Pokemon.
is, yes.
Is it a
Now you can see it has opened in the table builder. I'm going to skip the part. And to see if I have a status field or not, oh, Control Z. What I'm going to do is I will just simply add a record. I don't see, maybe I need to switch it here. Manage columns, and then I have to add status.
and the best
And this
part
is the
about
field which we
ServiceNow
created.
is yeah, and the best part is they all are interrelated. So if you want to manage it through App Engine or you want to do it from IDE, all get compiled to a single thing. At the end, it's just a metadata file that is being created. Either you create from IDE format or XML format, that's up to you.
Yeah. So what is happening now is I'm showing you two split screens. Basically, this is nothing but the metadata, and this is the real-time version. And you can see the column which we created is nothing but the status field. And why I'm showing you, because I want to prove the two-way synchronization for this particular part. And that is how Fluent works. Okay. Now you can see this field is not mandatory. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it mandatory from dictionary, and I'm going to save this. And as soon as I do that, ServiceNow in the backend will try to synchronize the changes on the form with the TypeScript or with the metadata as well. So if I quickly do this, yeah, I know you're comparing it. We have to wait a bit.
Yeah, it's kind of good. Like it's bit async in a sense, but I would prefer to have this, and then if multiple people are developing it or updating things, so they each one see the latest thing, and I think it's logged in somewhere as well.
Yeah. Meanwhile, that is happening. I'm just quickly going to go here. Let me quickly see. Go here. Okay.
You might want to save this up and reopen it.
That's all right. Yeah, I did it. Maybe close this. Save this. All right.
You might want to compare them, like if you open that.
Yeah. Quickly opening this part again. So you can see it is here, and I still don't see it populating here, but ideally there is an attribute added here.
Yeah, we saw
Which
that. Like, do you mind
let's do it on the client script then for a moment.
Yeah.
I'm going to close this. I'm going to go to this part, or maybe the business rule. Split the screens.
I really like the views and all. Maybe a
Yeah,
dark theme would help, but yeah.
indeed. So now, if you see this is loading, and this particular action is on update, what we are going to do is I'm going to put this on insert and save this.
But I think it will ask you to compare somewhere.
Ideally, it should not. It should automatically reflect here. Let's see how much time it takes. Yeah, you see it? Now it came immediately.
Yeah, you might have updated that file. That might be creating a collision over in that file. So
yeah. So this is how the Fluent synchronization works. But now let's move on to the most important part, that how you are going to commit this towards your Git repository, right? Before I go there, quick recap. Metadata, whatever files you create, or if you edit even the index file, and if you add extra components like ACLs, roles, tables, scripts, for each of them, a separate file will be created here.
and
Okay.
as you showed in that diagram, Fluent is just part of SDK. It's not the
SDK.
entire SDK. And
Yeah.
Fluent is a TypeScript. So just keep that in mind that it's just for metadata, not for any code or anything.
Yeah. Just to be sure, I'm going to rebuild it because I did this insert on line number 26. I added some extra mandatory part onto our table as well. So I just wanted to be sure that it has been installed correctly. I did this. Let's go back to the files one more time. And now here you can see the status mandatory is also
one.
set properly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is how basically Fluent works. But now, Dhruv, the most important part: how can we push this to Git repo, right? To do that, what I did is actually I created Um, Let me quickly open the repo. So I created one quick repository called as LWP IDE. Yeah, and
Okay.
this is pure empty Git at the moment. I have not connected anything to this repo. The most
Create
important
new
part.
one. Create new one. Like it doesn't make sense. Like call it a
Okay,
Pokemon one so that you know what
let's
exactly
do
you have
it.
done there.
Pokemon 1. So there are also some prerequisites before you go into this. So what you as a developer have to do is you need your personal access token. So I will show you. Once you create the repo, you have to go here. You have to go to where is it? Your profile,
Settings. File or
uh,
settings.
no, settings, and then you have to go to developer settings.
Yeah.
And in here, you need to create a personal token, which is the classic way which we did. I have the token already in place. So if you have the token, if you have the repo, next thing which you need to do basically is, let me move back to my app. First thing we need to do is create the credentials in ServiceNow, right? Because those are needed to uh, connect your app. So what we did is there is a command called as open IDE get credentials. If you click on this, you will see
And that
Dhruv and I already have credentials created. And here, for this demo, we need to create the new one
why would need a new one? Or is the resource? Okay.
because the remote resource, and under
Yeah.
that we have a basic credential. So we can reuse the basic credential which actually holds your username and the pad token, which I will talk through. So Pokemon
And
demo,
the command that you showed, like how that it's Control Shift P uh,
yeah,
on your IDE itself. If you press Control Shift P, you get the commands and the other options, just similar to how everything works in Visual Studio. So
indeed. So I don't have to do anything, just go copy the URL, go back here, put it in the resource, and then I have uh, my credentials. And in these credentials, if you see, I have given the username of the repo because I am the owner of the repo. And in the password, it should be your personal access token, which we just showed you how to obtain it. Once you have that, you're going to submit this. And then if I go here, the next thing which we are going to do now is we are going to connect it to, we are going to initialize a repository. It's not there yet.
and
The biggest learning. Yeah, go ahead.
before that, if you notice on the credential form, there is a user field that's now it's very useful. So just keep an eye on that.
Yeah, we wonder how it is going to be used. We also have some questions around it to be explored. Um, Dhruv, let's discuss about the interesting error we got when we were trying to initialize the repository that the user was not valid. Do you want to share some thoughts on it?
Uh, so ServiceNow has something called trusted domains. So if the user you are gonna use on the credential field has a issue as a different email address as the domain name, then you get that issue. So ideally in production environment or in a customer environment, it might not happen. But if it happens in your PDI, just check that email field or check the trusted domains. So if you get that error for trusted domain in PDI, if you trust every domain, doesn't matter. But if it is in production, update that email thing and the trusted domains. So that should help.
Yeah, this is kind of our customer environment. This functionality is not available on PDI. So Dhruv is mentioning when it is supported on PDI, this might happen, but this is more of a trusted environment already. But we struggled with it. We were thinking, okay, I have a proper email ID. I have a proper email address. This is one of the biggest learning which we are taking out of this session as well. Let's move on.
And just to make
So,
sure, when Ashu says customer environment, it's not our customer, the client that we work for, his environment. It's a environment we got, which is not our PDI. That's
yeah,
why that's how I can say.
yeah. So when I click on initialize a repository, it is asking me which application you want to sync with this repo, because like we said, under one workspace, you can have multiple applications, but our recommendation is to use one. So I'm going to select Pokemon. I want it to go to main branch for now. And here is the magic. Same like Visual Code Studio, same sticking to the principles of CI/CD core principles. You can see these are the untracked changes. So nothing has been deployed at the moment to the Git. Now here, if you click on plus sign, you can decide which changes you want to stage. And if you do not select anything, those changes will be stashed. So for example, if I click this, now you can see in stage, it is only one, but ideally this is the first time deployment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move all the things. So all the 16 things I want to move it. Before I proceed, I see one question in the chat from Carlos. He says, if I am using IDE and a colleague edit a component, for example, a client script directly on the platform, I'm going to see those changes in the real time, right?
Yeah.
Like Dhruv mentioned, it's not real time. It's more of a synchronous job trying to sync those components at both the places.
Yeah, sync
But yes,
job
it
is
will
very
happen.
quick, like it's in like 10 seconds or anything, so you won't even notice that it's asynchronous. But yeah.
Yeah, great. So now the next step to do this is I'm going to commit these changes, and it is asking me. So I'm saying first Pokemon, enter, and now what is happening? What do you think? Is it is it already committed to the repo, Dhruv, or there is something still pending?
I think you need to click tick mark, I guess, or not.
Now, so now what we need to do is we need to
Oh, it's a
push this.
push.
And
Yeah.
now here it is going to ask me the repo name, which is this one which we created. When I enter this, you will see in the right side corner, the changes are getting pushed into the repo. If there is any error, you will see the error occurring here, and there will be an explanation what is going wrong. But now we do not have any error, which means everything has been moved to our repo. So if I go here, you will see our metadata has been pushed properly. For example, just to show you, if I go here in Fluent, now I have two files, and this was our table file which we created. And the other one was the index file which was already there. If I go to the pull request, right now I do not have one more branch created, so I don't see anything. Everything is in the main branch. But this is how basically it works. So you are pushing it, following all the CI/CD rules, pushing the code here, and then you can import the code or import the application into another instances by initializing your repository, which we will quickly, I can quickly show you that as well. Let's imagine,
New
what do you think?
workspace, I would say. I just create
Yeah.
a new workspace and pull that thing.
Okay. So Pokemon app.
Wow.
Pokemon. Okay. Now this is empty shell, right? And there is no app here. But what we are going to do is, instead of creating a new application, let's imagine you are in your test instance and you want to pull the application which you created in dev. So we are just going to clone it. I'm just going to give the URL. Just enter this, and you will see all the changes are getting cloned in this scope. And here you can see is already in use. So because we are in the same instance trying to pull the same repository, we got that particular message on the right side. But if I go here under Fluent, I will still see the things, and now the error came again.
Yeah,
So to
it's quite
summarize,
good. This
yeah,
is the Fluent. You have the metadata being files being created on the fly, and it's just a way of reading them. It's easier to read than read in XML. I prefer this, frankly speaking.
yeah. Okay, we have spoken enough about IDE, SDK, and Fluent, and we have demonstrated how basically it works. This was just our first attempt. We are going to share more knowledge, and we are going to create more content around it. Before we end, we want to share some key learnings with you, which I think are very important for me and Dhruv. The first thing is, of course, this is future of pro code development within ServiceNow platform. Many people were asking it. Even in our organizations, we got same question because people don't like to go and if you're a pro code developer, you really like to do it in this way. Another important thing is you will learn only if you try this. It might when we show you, it might feel like very easy thing, but trust us, it's not that easy. You have to learn on the fly, and once you are used to this, you will find it very easy. The third thing is, this is finally a CI/CD based solution which we were looking for, and we really, again, connecting it back to the future. ServiceNow is really putting efforts onto it. And one of the learnings we already shared at the beginning, right? 1:1 mapping through with the workspace and with the app. Last but not least, some shameless plugs, and I will hand it over to Dhruv. We
Shameless
kind of
plugs for
covered
me.
it, but
Yeah, the thing is, it's not that tough. It's tough if you are not habitual of building apps in Visual Studio or traditional development, because ServiceNow has somehow spoiled us in being so easy and low code to manage as a platform. So it might take a bit, but yeah, I prefer to use this way instead of update sets, because whenever you have a collision with the XML or you need to merge, we usually just accept it. Like, I mean, to be very honest, it's very hard to see what has changed and where there is a conflict. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a bit of exploring for us. And if you listen to the podcast Lathan Pratana, shameless plug, you would if you specifically hear the John's episode, the latest one, you will find he openly shared the roadmap, and he accepts the challenges or what people would expect. So it's coming in is just that how we stay connected, and they are very open to the feedback, and if there's anything we can help with, we would be more than happy to do that. Apart from that, shameless plugs, Latan Vipratan, live streams, LinkedIn, everything, and then meetups. So it's gonna be fun.
yeah. Something from my side, you can reach out to me and Dhruv on LinkedIn, on Slack, SN Devs. We are also available there. We also have a group which was started called as Mavericks. You can also reach us via that. And if you have questions towards the product team also, and if you are not able to find them, please let us know and we might help you. You can reach out to John Lin, also on Slack, also on LinkedIn. He's very open for feedback, like Dhruv said. And of
And the
course,
world forums are happening in your city, in multiple cities. So do check them
yeah,
out, do attend them.
CreatorCon India. Tomorrow it's in Pune, and
Yeah,
then it's
your
in
city.
Bangalore. So yeah, please go, guys. Have fun. Uh, and finally, if you want to stay updated about our next stream, please subscribe to our channel or our podcast, or follow us on LinkedIn so you will get update of it. And then I'm going to spill some beans before I end. The next episode, we are going to show you the offline version of SDK and Fluent, and it will be hosted by Dhruv, and I will be on the other side. So please stay tuned. Again, thank you for joining. Good night, good evening, good morning, wherever you are.
Bye, guys. Bye. Take care.
Bye.